Have you ever been in a conversation where someone says that I'm a great listener, but you leave the conversation feeling more like they barely noticed you? That did they even hear you speak? Maybe they redirect the whole conversation to their own perspective or rush to solve your situation instead of truly hearing you. In today's episode, it's time to focus on empathy, and not just as a buzzword, but as a powerful human leadership skill. One that builds trust, deepens connections, and creates space for real movement.
Confidence starts inside of you.
Welcome to Confident Leadership in Color. I'm Hannah Saxmy, leadership coach, team developer, and your guide in this journey with leading with confidence, clarity, and heart. If you're new here, I'm so glad that you found your way here. And if you've been following for a while, welcome back. This is episode 10, and I will now jump into the confident framework again after last week's a bit sidestep. And today we're diving into E for empathy. And here's why this conversation matters more than ever. In a time where AI can write our emails, generate reports, do realistic movies of us, what it can't do is to feel. Empathy is one of those few deeply human skills that technology can't replace. In fact, it's increasingly recognized as the key distinguisher for leadership in this fast-moving digital era. Empathy isn't just a nice extra, it's a must-have, especially in leadership. Because no matter how smart or efficient we become, people still need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And that's where empathy leads the way. It's from there it starts. Empathy is also one of those essential components of emotional intelligence, EQ. And EQ is no longer seen as a soft extra, but as a core leadership skill that drives performance, engagement, and resilience. Leaders with strong emotional intelligence who can manage their own emotions and genuinely connect with others, they are not just more likable, they're more impactful. When I think of empathy, I picture a sparkling and growing heart, vibrant red. To me, that symbolizes that empathy truly is a warm, expanding presence that brings life into our relationships. It's not loud, but it's powerful. And it grows every time we choose to show up with care. So while the world speeds up, empathy helps us to slow down, especially when our focus is truly to see the person in front of us and to be fully present. And that's what makes the real difference. Empathy begins when we stop assuming and start wondering. It's easy to listen just enough to prepare a response, but true empathy invites us to shift perspective, not to lose ourselves in someone else's shoes, but to see the world as they might be seeing it, to hold the question, what might this be like for them? This doesn't mean we forget our own stance. It means we choose for a moment to pause our own lens and try on theirs. In leadership, this makes all the difference because every decision, every reaction, every silence, it all lands differently depending on the person receiving it. Empathy allows us to acknowledge that impact even when we can't fully understand it. Whether we are celebrating someone's success or supporting them in grief or loss, empathy grounds us in the human part of leadership. And in a world that rewards speeds, solution, it's empathy that gives us trust and a true long-term value. One thing that shapes how I meet people as a leader, as a coach, and friend is that I've lived through many different experiences. I've been the employee receiving news that shook my world, and I've been the manager who had to deliver those very same kinds of messages. I've also walked through deeply personal challenges, like the emotional roller coaster of infertility, a journey of hope and grief, and that eventually led to a birth of a first daughter. But these moments, they have stretched me and they have also softened me. All those experiences, both joyful and painful, have become embodied knowledge. They shape how I show up today. They've taught me that empathy isn't about fixing or rescuing. It's about presence. It's about honoring what someone's going through, even when we can't change it. And it's also about celebrating someone when something beautiful happens and genuinely share that joy. And in coaching, this perspective deepens even more. As a coach, I believe the person I'm sitting with already holds their own answers. My job isn't to advise or direct, it's to listen in a way that helps them to hear themselves, to ask questions that unlock insights, to create a space where they feel safe enough to explore what's true and what's possible. Empathy here is about trust, trusting that your story matters, that your process has value, and that you already come a long way, and that you're capable of so much more. And that is my role, to support you, not to steer you. Empathy is also about holding space, letting you to take up room, just as you are. It's about creating a space where you can explore what's new, even when it feels uncertain, exciting, or messy. A space to gently sort through the tangles, and you can move forward feeling more grounded, more resourceful, and more fully yourself. So let's explore this together in a concrete way. Empathy can be expressed in so many ways, and one powerful form is through true listening. When was it the last time you felt truly listened on? What was it that made you feel heard? Was it the way someone looked at you, the silence they held, or the questions they asked? And when did you last listen with full presence? Not to fix, not to reply, just to be there. This week, I want to invite you to choose one moment where you go into a conversation with one single intention: to listen with heart. No solutions, no rush, just presence. And to boost you a bit, here are 3 simple phrases to help you to stay present where you're not sure what to say. The first one, easy. Tell me more. Second one, what feels important about this? And third one, how would you like me to listen right now? Just to hear you or to help you figuring it out. These phrases might seem small, but they do something powerful. They create space. They invite the person you're with to stay a little longer in their own experience instead of rushing forward, fixing, or withdrawing. They also relieve you from the pressure of having to say the perfect thing or come up with a solution. Sometimes simply asking or affirming is enough to shift the entire energy of the conversation. It shows presence. It says, I'm here, I see you, and I'm not trying to move you on. I'm walking with you. The third phrase I told you about, it's something I often use myself. If I'm the one who needs a great ear and the right kind of attention, I say, I'd love if you could just listen with your heart. I need to speak out loud how I'm feeling, not to be fixed. And this helps the other person, especially if they're a natural problem solver type, to understand that what kind of support I actually need in that moment. Empathy begins when we make space for others and for ourselves. So let's bring this all into your day-to-day leadership. Empathy in leadership isn't loud. It's not always visible, but it changes everything. It creates psychological safety. It invites honesty, and it fosters real human connection, which is the foundation of any effective team. Empathy shows up when you pause before reacting, when you check in instead of assuming, when you create a space for someone to speak, even if you don't have the perfect response. It's not about fixing, it's about being with. In challenging conversation, like delivering difficult news, empathy allows us to honor the humanity in front of us, to acknowledge emotions, to stay present, and to offer dignity even in disappointment. I've seen it again and again. The leaders who dare to slow down and listen, even for just a few minutes, build more trust than those that just rush to solve. Empathy is a quiet power, one that doesn't demand attention but earns respect. And in a world that often rewards speed, output, and answers, it is empathy that will set you apart as a truly impactful leader. In the previous episode, I talked about that little voice, the inner critic that can so easily take over, especially when we care deeply and want to do our best. It's easy to hold ourselves to impossible standards, to judge every mistake, every misstep. And yet, we would never speak to a friend in that way we sometimes speak to ourselves. Empathy doesn't stop with others. It begins how we treat ourselves. So when that voice shows up, I try to pause and ask, what am I really saying to myself right now? And then I imagine if my best friend were sitting here, hearing me say that out loud, what would she say? Would she say I failed, that I should have known better? Or would she remind me that I'm human, doing my best and still learning? Giving empathy to yourself is not self-indulgence, it's self-honoring. It's recognizing that you're worthy of the same kindness you offer to others. And just like the others, it's not about fixing, it's about listening, creating space for yourself to feel, to reflect, to be you. That is where resilience grows. That's where grounded confidence begins. If this episode stirs something in you, a memory, a feeling, or a simple curiosity, I invite you to pause and notice it. Empathy begins there, with awareness, with presence. Remember, leadership isn't about solving everything. It's about showing up human. It's about asking with care and listening with intention. This is the kind of leadership I support in individuals and in teams every day. And if you're curious about what it might look like for you, you're always welcome to reach out. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep listening with heart. And remember the challenge I gave you. Pick one conversation this coming week where you go in with the focus and intention to truly listen on the person you have in front of you and see what difference you can make.
Inside of you.